Hello and welcome. This presentation was created as part of my preparation for the Advanced Sommelier exam. I hope you can find useful information in here, and please feel free to post any comments you may have in the comments section. This video is part 1 of 2, where we will talk about Eastern Europe, so let's begin. I would like to start by showing the sources I used to gather this information. These are some of my favorite wine books, and I strongly suggest using them for any research. As we will approach each country's history individually, here's a quick overview of Eastern Europe in general. Unlike their Western neighbors, Eastern European countries went through serious viticultural reorganization post-Soviet era, during which many vineyards were state-owned. After the collapse of the Soviet Union, many vineyards became privately owned and international interest grew both in wines and land, bringing many wine growers from the West. Progress was often achieved by replacing branded products with higher quality wines and the application of modern winemaking techniques and technologies, making wine more marketable to the West. The communist push for quantity over quality created enormous marketing problems for these countries that now have the Western market as primary target, and the large competition with Western producers have also helped drive quality up. Eastern Europe is the culmination of many cultures coming together. Slavic, Byzantine, Greek, and Eastern Orthodox all found home throughout the region and heavily influenced each country. The area in vogue sits east of Italy, Germany, and Austria, north of Greece and south of Poland and Belarus, occupying a region filled with many important geographical features such as the Ural Mountains, Caucasus Mountains, the Carpathian Mountains, Dinaric Alps, Pannonian Plain, Danube River and tributaries, and the Black, Adriatic, and Aegean Seas. Nestled between Austria and Germany is the Czech Republic, with Slovakia as we travel east. The two countries were split from Czechoslovakia in 1991 after the fall of the Soviet Union. After the separation, most vineyards ended up in Slovakia, around Bratislava, bordering Vienna to the west, and in the east across the border from Tokaj. Czech Republic's wine region is predominantly located in Moravia, north of the border with Vienna, with small plantings in Bohemia around Prague in the north, bordering Germany. The two countries are surrounded by Poland, Ukraine, Hungary, Austria, and Germany. There are two main wine regions in Czech Republic, Bohemia near Prague with basalt and limestone soils, and Moravia near the border with Vienna with limestone soil. In Slovakia, we find one main region, concentrated around Bratislava and along the southern border with Hungary. The overall climate is continental, situated at the 50th parallel north in line with the English Channel. The region is protected from cold winds by high altitude, with hot summers, cool winters, and moderate precipitation, moderated by many rivers, including the Danube forming the border of Slovakia and Hungary. There's a great number of varieties grown between both countries, and many are shared with the southern neighbors such as Riesling Velasquez, aka Welch Riesling, Müller-Thurgau, Grüner Veltliner, Silvaner, Isai Oliver, also popular in North Hungary, Frankovka, known in Austria as Blaufränkisch, Wawrineka or Svato Wawrineka, mainly in Slovakia, Cabernet Moravia, a crossing of Zweigelt and Cabernet Franc, as well as many international cultivars. Both Czech and Slovak wines classifications follow the European Union classification system with CHOP for PDO and CHZO for PGI. Czech Republic has 2 PGIs and 6 PDOs, 4 in Moravia and 2 in Bohemia. Slovakia, on the other hand, has 6 PGIs and 32 PDOs, most of which are found in the Malokarpatska or Little Carpathian. Much like Germany, PDO wines can also be classified either as quality wine or quality wine with predicate, according to grape maturity or harvest, with a minimum of 15 degrees of sugar to classify as quality wine and 19 degrees of sugar for the lowest predicate of cabinet. Finally, wines that undergo an organoleptic evaluation and reflect the terroir they come from may use VOC on the label, indicating the wine has a certification of origin. Moving east, we arrive in Ukraine, whose capital is Kiev. Phoenician and Greek cultures influenced the region, especially in Crimea. Later, monks and monasteries impacted the wine activities during 11th and 12th centuries. Ukraine was a former storehouse of Soviet Union, and now most of southern coast is planted in vineyards. Moving clockwise, starting north, Ukraine is surrounded by Belarus, Russia, the Azov Sea, the Black Sea, Moldova, Romania, Hungary, Slovakia, and Poland. And vineyards concentrate near the Black and Azov Seas to the south, where the soil is rich and loess. Located at the 49th parallel north, in line with much of the US-Canada border and Champagne, the climate is continental, with hot summers and severe winters moderated by the Black and Azov seas, to the south where it is drier. Rkatsiteli dominates plantings, but Aligoté, Cabernet Sauvignon, Saperavi, Riesling, and Gewürztraminer also find a home here. Drip irrigation plays a major role, and severe winter conditions call for measures to protect against the bitter cold. And akin to the rest of Europe, vines are planted on phylloxera-resistant rootstocks. Quality wines are divided into ordinary, vintage, and collection. Wines produced without exposure are called ordinary. Vintage wines are aged at least a year and a half, counting from January 1st following the harvest year, and for strong and dessert wines, at least 2 years, except for wines made from Muscat grapes, for which the aging period is no less than a year and a half. Finally, vintage wines of extremely high quality, which must age in bottle for at least 3 years after the optional barrel aging, are called collection. Farther east, we encounter Russia and its capital Moscow, with over 2,000 years in winemaking history in an area located between the Caspian and Black Seas. Greek influence as early as the 5th century BC may have been the source of vitis vinifera, from which the Magyars took plantings to modern Hungary. There was a significant drop in production during the Tsars, but production was retaken during Napoleonic Wars. Gorbachev's fight against alcoholism in the 80s again adversely affected production not only in Russia but abroad, and communism drastically affected viticulture. After the annexation of Crimea in 2014, vineyard area increased significantly. Wine growing concentrates in the North Caucasus area between Caspian, Azov, and Black Seas, with 6 main areas: Rostov, Krasnodar, the most important region, Stavropol, Chechen-Ingush, Dagestan, the second most important region, and most recently Crimea. The viticultural area is sited between the 43rd and 45th parallels north, equivalent to the latitude positional of the state of Oregon, and has a continental climate with severe winters moderated by the Black, Azov, and Caspian seas. The best climate zones can be found in Krasnodar, on the shores of the Black and Azov seas, and Dagestan, on the shore of the Caspian Sea. There are well over 100 allowed varieties, with a diverse vine selection between vitis vinifera, hybrids, and disease-resistant crossings. The most popular are Cabernet Sauvignon, a local hybrid made from Cabernet Sauvignon, Saperavi Sauvignon, Tsmiliansky Cherny, and Pevernet Magarcha, as well as a large number of international varieties. Russian winters dictate that vines need to be buried in order to protect from the cold. There is a large co-op activity helping to promote the local wine industry. Trellising systems with wide rows were implemented after the fall of the Soviet Union, with single guillot as the most common method, and irrigation is common in drier areas such as Dagestan. Georgia, with its capital Tbilisi, is a meeting point of many cultures: Assyrian, Roman, Persian, Byzantine, Arabian, Osmanli, Russian, and Soviet. But the Georgian identity has never been lost. It is a former Soviet member located in the Caucasus between the Caspian and Black Seas. The country holds the earliest evidence of winemaking in the world, circa 6,000 years before Christ, and wine techniques and costumes definitely show the strength of the past 8,000 years. Russia is the greatest influence in the wine production, with the introduction of modern winemaking techniques, as well as a major consumer. There was a drop in exports between 2006 and 2013 due to a Russian ban on Georgian goods, but there are now strong signs of market rebound. Located in the Caucasus between the Caspian and Black Seas, 85% of the land is mountainous. There are 3 river basins with many tributaries and diverse ecosystems, from subtropical rainforests to arid deserts to alpine glaciers. The soils near the coast tend to be clay-based, and limestone, alluvial, and sand inland. At the 41st parallel north, Georgia is in line with Northern California, Long Island, and Rome. The coast, moderated by the Black Sea, is subtropical, and the center, moderated by the Alazani River, is continental. There are over 500 indigenous varieties of grape, with 37 authorized for production, and 95% of production is from indigenous varieties. Saperavi, Mtsvani, and Rkatsiteli are the most popular. 75% of wines are vinified white and 25% red. Contrarily to Russia, on the northern side of the Caucasus mountain range, no winter protection is necessary, and various trellis systems are employed, with cordon, guillot, fan, and pergola as the most common. But more so than viticulture and varieties, I believe what makes Georgian wine so idyllic is the use of Qvevri, also known as Churi in the West. Qvevri is Georgia's most important and best-known winemaking vessel, among the world's earliest example of winemaking technology, and it was the first non-food product to gain PGI status in 2001, delineating Georgia as the place of origin, as well as codifying their shapes, capacity, raw materials, and production methods. Qvevri often hold 1,000 liters or more and are buried up to their necks to keep temperatures constant during fermentation and aging of both red and white grapes. They can also be used to age and store wines, but the main use continues to be fermentation. Inside, they can be lined with beeswax and are still painstakingly crafted by hand from local clay. UNESCO recently added it to its catalog of humanity's intangible cultural heritage. The Georgian winemaking process is one of limited intervention, often with no filtration, fining, or SO2 usage. While the Georgian identity in winemaking has been preserved, there's plenty of international influence in the region, and the future shows movement towards a hybrid of traditional and modern techniques. The process starts with a clean, well-rinsed Qvevri. Traditionally, a worker scoops out the solids of the bottom of the emptied vessel, then climbs inside to scrub the walls. Then the Qvevri is washed out with an alkaline solution and rinsed several times until the water runs clear. After sorting the grapes, the winemaker crushes the bunches in a traditional stone or wooden wine press called a satsnakeli. The grape must is then loaded into the Qvevri, typically with all or part of the marc and stalks, to 3/4 of the vessel's capacity. The grapes can be either red or white, but the best-known traditional Georgian wines are the amber wines produced in Qvevri from white grapes. Fermentation takes place without intervention, using naturally occurring yeasts and natural, underground temperature control. Producers typically punch down the cap and stir the vat during fermentation, which often lasts 3 weeks. When the cap starts to sink and producers determine fermentation is complete, they seal the Qvevri with a lid and a clay or silicone sealer. The winemaker will leave the solids to macerate in the Qvevri for the first 3 to 6 months of the wine's aging before removing them. This period is shorter with red wines and some white wines produced in the West. Producers who want malolactic conversion to take place during fermentation, especially with red wines, sometimes warm the Qvevri with a heating element before racking the wine off the lees. The Qvevri's sloped walls allow the yeast and sediment to settle at the bottom, while the wine circulates above. In the spring, when the wine is ready, the winemaker either bottles it or transfers it to another Qvevri for short-term storage or an extra year of aging. There are 10 wine regions. Kakheti is the most important with 18 PDOs, 75% of vineyard land, accounting for 70% of national production, and vineyards are planted along the Alazani River. This concludes part 1 of Western Europe. In part 2, we will start heading back west towards Italy.